Greetings, beloved Princeton United Methodist Church community. It's Pastor Jenny with another update for you. I'm going to read scripture from James 1, verses 22 to 24 from the version called The Message. And it says, "Don't fool yourself into thinking that you are a listener when you are anything but, letting the word go in one ear and out the other. Act on what you hear. Those who hear and don't act are like those who glance in the mirror, walk away, and 2 minutes later have no idea who they are and what they look like." This is the word of life. Thanks be to God. This passage in our New Revised Standard Version, or maybe the King James Version, a more familiar way of hearing this is one you've probably heard before. It says, "But be doers of the word and not merely hearers." You know, this strikes me as a beautiful time to talk about part of our Wesleyan heritage. One of the parts that we receive from the wisdom and the teaching of John Wesley is he talks about how our faith takes two paths. Both are necessary, but he talks about acts of mercy and acts of piety. And acts of piety we often think of as those more interior things, those spiritual disciplines, that coming to worship, the devotional time, the prayer time, the meditation time, those kinds of things that we do more interiorly. Forgive people, for example, those kinds of things. And acts of mercy are those things that we go out and we do. As we think about that in terms of our discipleship work together, often we would think about our soul work, our soul parts, the ways we connect. If you're a soul, spiritual type person, you probably feel very comfortable with acts of piety. If you're a hands and feet person, you're going to be very comfortable and excited by acts of mercy. And now they all have to do with all of them, but this is just a way we can kind of translate that. Heart is, in the way that we've described it here, is often about relational pieces. So it has to do with this thing that happens between us. So it can be thought of as both, of course, but sometimes we might put that a little more into acts of mercy. Whereas head is, again, a more interior act. It's something about studying and learning and growing that way, and might be fit better into an idea called acts of piety. So again, everything doesn't fit neatly into these two things. But I wonder, as you think about that, as you think about, am I, in my faith, in my journey of faith so far, in the things that I'm most in need of and comfortable with, do I tend to prefer and pursue acts of mercy? Or do I tend to prefer and pursue acts of piety? There's no right or wrong answer. Now, I know that in our James passage is kind of harsh on the people who are just hearers of the word, those more piety-focused people. But it's also just as harsh on people who just might go and do a bunch of stuff without having the grounding of that piety work too. So both are crucial. Both are important. But we don't all start out doing all things perfectly well all at the same time. So where do you feel most drawn? Where do you feel most comfortable? And what for you are the links between the two? If you are more comfortable sitting in both spaces at once, or if those don't feel as separate to you as I'm describing here, wonderful. I wonder if you could describe, if you can put into words what the relationship is between acts of piety and acts of mercy. Hearing the word and doing the word. Experiencing your faith, believing, trusting, having that sense inside of you, and making that come alive and evident in how you live your daily life. How do those things fit together for you? We're going to explore this more on Sunday, of course, but I would love to invite you to think about that between now and then. A couple of other notes about what's going on in the life of the church. So we have our fall kickoff on September 12th. Now, fall kickoff looks different this year than it ever has before, even last year. Last year was a strange year. It was hardly a kickoff at all in a lot of ways, but this year there is more of a kickoff, but it's still just different. And I want to just first acknowledge that this is painful. And I think that as the pandemic continues, as the Delta variant continues to run rampant around us right now, most of New Jersey is a high risk level of infection rate, and it's just heartbreaking. It's just deeply hard and deeply sad and deeply challenging that we felt these moments of hope, and now we're still in this place of really having to be careful and really having to take seriously what we have to do to care for ourselves and one another. So a few things. For our fall kickoff, we are going to, it is the new start of our program year. So worship has never stopped, but some of our programming has been different for the summer or not happening at all. So choirs are kicking back off. Our chancel choir will continue to be virtual for now. Our handbell choir will be in person, so that's exciting. Our youth and children's choirs are planning to be in person but outdoors. So we're trying to, lots of different things here to engage in different ways. So our children's programming, our youth programming, our music programming are coming back to life again this fall. Worship will continue, of course. We're starting a new worship series. We're talking about emerging from exile toward home. And so we'll be talking about that at a lot of different levels. We're going to be exploring the exile stories in Scripture and how they speak into the reality that we are continuing to experience now. But we also know that worship in person, it is available. We are continuing to keep it at 50 people. Our reopening COVID team met last week and decided that we needed to stay at 50 people as a capacity for our in-person worship. That's not including our worship leaders, so there's space for 50 people to come and join us in person. We know that people still have lots of different needs and experiences around this. We are masking. We are asking people to decide on their distance needs in worship. We cannot sing fully the way we normally do or the way we want to in worship. You can hum, you can keep your voice very low, but that is an experience that may not be for everyone, not only because of exposure risk and just being indoors with people over time, but that also I realize may not be the experience that you want to have in worship these days. But for others of you, it is exactly what you need and what you want. And I should say, probably not exactly. None of us really want that, but it may be what you need in this moment. It may be really helpful for you to be in the sanctuary, to see us live and in person, to worship with other people. And so we just acknowledge that there are a lot of things going on. And COVID's not the only thing that keeps you away from our building on Sunday mornings. This past Sunday, there were floods going on. And so this is the gift part, is that we can continue to be here for you no matter where you are, whether you are traveling, whether you're stuck behind a flood zone, whether you are ill, whether you are caring for someone who's ill, whether you are homebound for any number of reasons, you can still participate, and we are still here for you in these various ways. So we're going to continue to offer in-person worship up to 50 people, masked and distance with very little singing. We are going to continue to be online for you, both live on Sunday morning, but archived when you can watch and participate wherever you are, whenever it is convenient for you. And this is where we are right now. So that's the quick update for that. There's more, but you can read in our communications what is going to happen there. The last thing I wanted to do is, last week I said that I would be talking more here about our Kingston, Princeton, United Methodist Churches collaboration that's happening. And we had a town hall meeting this past Sunday at Kingston Church, and we provided them with quite a bit of information that they hadn't had a chance to really digest, but you all haven't either. The Princeton people haven't really either in a lot of ways. So I wanted to share, so we're going to break up a lot of the information over time. But today what I wanted to offer you as a conceptual piece here. It's conceptual, but it's moving toward reality as well. Some of it is happened, some of it is becoming, and some of it will be solidified over time. But what I want you to know is that we are developing a multi-site ministry. And for lack of a better name, we need a name for that. And so right now, our placeholder name is the Capital District Multi-Site Ministry. Now, so a multi-site ministry means that we are becoming one ministry with multiple campuses, multiple entities. So at the very same time, we are one church, one organization, with an organizing structure kind of up here with multiple individual entities here, kind of below that are connected through this bigger structure up here. So we are at the same time one ministry with multiple campuses and multiple campuses that are operating partially independently from one another. So this Capital District Multi-Site Ministry right now formally includes Kingston United Methodist Church and Princeton United Methodist Church, but there are other congregations that are going to be in conversation with us about the possibility of coming together as part of this multi-site ministry. It also, we are looking at how we formalize what is now a combination of formal and informal relationships with Princeton University and Princeton Theological Seminary. For example, Skitch is still part of our multi-site ministry. He is formally in relationship with Princeton University as their campus pastor, their chaplain for the United Methodist students, faculty, people that are there. But we also have, as part of our congregation, students and faculty and staff people from Princeton University as well. That's kind of an informal piece there. With Princeton Theological School, the same kind of informal relationship exists, but we also have formal relationships with interns who, by the way, are starting this coming in a couple weeks on September 5th. So that is another piece that's important to know. But this is also another really big piece of what this means. So your appointed clergy, who you're familiar with, Skitch and I are your appointed clergy at Princeton United Methodist Church. But now, with this change, we are actually appointed to the CDC MSM, that Capital District Multi-Site Ministry, along with another person, Pastor Ashley. You heard her preach a couple weeks ago. She's been in our newsletter, but she has been part of the team that led pastoral staff at Kingston. So Kingston and Princeton now neither have their own pastoral staff. The CDMSM is where we are kind of located in that org structure. So we are now appointed to the system, that multi-site ministry, rather than to individual churches. Now we still have responsibility at those churches as well as for the whole. So I'm now lead pastor of the multi-site ministry, but I'm the Princeton United Methodist Church campus pastor. So you're not going to feel a lot of difference between what you're used to having me do and what I will continue to do. Skitch, you will feel a little bit of a difference. He is still appointed to the Wesley Foundation at Princeton University, but he is also now like an associate pastor for the whole, campus pastor for Kingston, and he will continue to do youth ministry for the whole system, for that CDC MSM. So kids from both churches can come and participate in that joint youth ministry that overarches all of that. Pastora Ashley is appointed again to the whole. She's part of our clergy team now. She's going to do a lot of stuff with Kingston because she's their continuity there. She's the one who knows that congregation best, but she's also going to be working on adult formation with Princeton and with the whole system. So that's just I'm going to stop there. That's just a quick version. We're going to keep coming back to some of these same concepts, but I wanted you to hear about that overarching structure that's helping to form a multi-site ministry and what our new kind of roles and titles are in the midst of that. Blessings. Keep asking your questions. If you have questions for me about this, ask them, and we will keep building on to the library of answers for you. So stay tuned. Blessings to you all. Remember that you are enough because God is enough. Thanks be to God for that. Bye.